Honey, I Joined the Cult is a tycoon / base building game that's coming out on the PC, which allows you to start your own 1970s cult. Everyone who sees it says it looks a little bit like Prison Architect. That's the general style of it, but the idea is that you build up your base HQ, you recruit followers, you fleece them for money, and then you slowly expand your cult and spread it over a city, and then slowly gain influence over the city. The very first thing you do, and something that we knew that we had to get in, is that we want to allow people to customize their cult in any way they want to, because when you say you're doing a cult building game, one of the first things that people want to do is say, oh, well, that's, I want to be able to worship this, or I want to have this as a god, or I want my cult to look like that. So the first thing you do is you customize it. There's a few kind of aesthetic choices that you can choose, and, like I say, the name of your god and things like that. There's also going to be, at the beginning, you can choose a general theme for the cult, which will essentially decide what your end goal is. So say if you have a theme which is, say, satanic, essentially, the end goal, you'll be able to change things mid-game, but the end goal might end up being that you want to summon a demon, or you want to sacrifice someone or something like that. And then the main part of the game, once you get into it, is there's a lot of the base building, typical base building that you would associate with, like I say, games like Prison Architect, RimWorld, and that type of thing. So you build up the ability of your cult to recruit people, to recruit kind of more high-profile people, make more money out of them, and keep your cultists happy. And then you expand your base, you send your cultists off on missions and start to gather different resources, and then start to move along essentially a kind of tech tree to get to the end goal that you want to get to. To start off with, in the early game, it's all about just establishing your base and getting some really basic things sorted for your cultists. So we kind of focused on what happens with real cults, in that a lot of the time they start off preying on quite vulnerable members of society. So to start off with, the people that are attracted to your cult they have kind of social problems, essentially. You can't attract from the start. And then the things that you'll be able to build and the things you have to build for them are quite low quality kind of thing, in terms of like beds, would be mattresses, and, bedrooms, and the other facilities they use will be quite rubbish. To start off with as well, you won't have any problem with authorities and journalists and things like that paying attention to you, because you're just too small. So to start off with, the focus is on getting new members and getting money. As you progress through the game, there's a heat rating, and certain actions that you'll take will start to build up that heat rating, and you'll start to get unwanted attention from, like I say, journalists, which will try and infiltrate you, government agencies, angry family members that don't like the fact that their loved ones have been coerced into your kind of sinister organisations, and you'll have to deal with that, and you can deal with it in a variety of different ways, be it through missions, or building certain things within the base, or recruiting certain people. And then as you attract more prestigious people, then you will have to build different items. There's a lot of the base building stuff starts to scale with it as well. So, you've got things to take care of, like maintenance within the base, and cleaning, and feeding your cultists. So all that starts to scale up as well. And then as you move towards the end game, all of the heat ratings should have risen quite considerably by then, and you'll be taking care of that kind of stuff, but you'll be more focused on trying to realise that end goal, whatever it is that you've chosen. The games that we play now are slightly less frenetic, kind of. We're not that into first-person shooters, so we do tend to play quite a lot of building games and slower paced games ourselves. But we were thinking about what organisations hadn't been done, and what organisations would it be fun to run. Mm-hmm. So I hope it doesn't sound bad when I say we thought it'd be fun to run your own cult, but we thought of all the possibilities with it. You could ask people to worship these silly things. You could have a leader which had this ultimate power over people to do these horrible things. And we just thought, well, you don't get that in a lot of organisations. And the cult theme, there's so many different things that you can do with it. There's so many different kinds of cults. There's so many just wacky stories you hear about them, we started to get quite excited about putting some of those within the game. And when we mentioned the idea to people, just to kind of sound it out in the beginning, a lot of people said, yeah, that's a really good idea. And then when we looked around, we realized it wasn't, there's games that obviously have cults as a central theme. There wasn't one where you could do what we're essentially trying to do with it, where you could choose all of these things like your god, and then you could run it, and then you could, like I say, abuse people and fleece people and do all of these kind of things, which we thought that, in a slightly megalomaniac type of way, would be fun for people to experience in it, kind of thing. We came up with the idea first and foremost, then we came up with the art style and the design for it afterwards. We wanted a little bit of a guide on the art style itself, and a theme to kind of unite all of it. And we looked at the 70s stuff, and you can probably see the big moustaches, the wacky hair and stuff like that. We thought it gave a kind of slightly wacky feel to it, which is what we wanted to do. We didn't want to go for, we haven't tried to make the game ultra realistic. We're trying to, the art style is cartoony and fun, and a lot of it is in a semi-serious tone. And we thought these, slightly ridiculous looking 70s characters and with ridiculous facial hair, that kind of tied in with that. So, and hopefully the music, by the time we finish with it as well, that will be all kind of 70s funky style, which will tie in with it. We've had a really good reaction. We've taken it to a few Insomnias now. We've taken it to a Rooster Teeth Expo in London. We have taken it to EGX as well. That acts as a really good kind of testing and sounding out of some of the ideas and things we put together. It's interesting. We get people who just want to, because there's obviously a big building aspect as part of the game, we do get a lot of people that just want to build all over it, and it's almost like like they're doing some kind of QA testing or something like that, but realizing that you could build lampposts all over the roads and trees everywhere, and essentially find weird building bugs within the game. That's always a bit kind of like embarrassing, because they've essentially broken the game very easily. But this is why we're taking it to expos, because we kind of want people to do these unexpected things with it. If it's successful, then we would love to do, we've got loads of different ideas about expansions and stuff like that you could do with it. It'd be great. Our minds just kind of run wild with all these different things that could be done with it. But for now, we don't want to think about it too much, because it's just, the game itself is a huge undertaking for two people to do. So we're just going to get this out and in a good state that people are going to enjoy, and that's what we're focusing on first and foremost. Before this, I used to be a corporate lawyer. I hated it, and I did it for about 10 years, and it took me ages to get qualified into doing that, but it wasn't suited to me at all. I should have never gone into it, and it got to a point in my life where I thought, if I don't change what I'm doing now, I'm going to have a family and I'm not going to be able to do it. So a few years ago, I just took the plunge and quit my job, and a very high risk maneuver, decided to go for game development, and spoke to a friend who was in a similar position, didn't really like what he was doing. That's Ed, the other guy that's working on this, and he said he wanted to do the same thing. We knew each other, we were both gamers, and we knew each other through gaming. And so we decided to sit down and come up with some ideas. And the best idea we came up with was Honey, I Joined a Cult. And yeah, we've been doing it ever since. It probably would have been advisable to do a slightly simpler, less ambitious game for our first ever game. But yeah, here we are. We started off without any kind of specializations in terms of what exactly we were going to do. We were both unskilled in absolutely everything, so we both did a bit of everything. But as the development progressed, we kind of specialised in certain things. So Ed does more of the artwork, because I just absolutely cannot draw, and it would look awful. So he's not a trained artist, and he's done very well. He's done all of the graphics in the game. So I have gravitated a bit more towards the design side of it, and then both of us do the programming as well. So, and then within the game, we've orientated ourselves towards different, parts of the programming. So Ed would do more of the UI, whereas I do more of the on-screen stuff and that kind of thing. But it works well. We keep in touch via Discord because we live in different parts of the country and use various online tools such as Trello to track exactly what we're doing and how far progressed we are with everything. So when we started off, we wanted to develop it in Unity, but because we had never done any programming at all, this is both of us, me and Ed, we had a problem just getting to grips with C# from being absolute amateurs with no experience. So we then went and had a look at GameMaker, and our initial feeling is that GameMaker, I don't know why we had this impression, but GameMaker wouldn't be powerful enough to do what we wanted to do with the game. The more we looked into it, the more we realised that wasn't the case. What attracted us to it was it has this drag and drop system where you didn't have to learn to program. We thought maybe we could make a game without doing any programming. As soon as we started using it, we realised that if we were going to make a kind of a complicated, ambitious game, then we needed to get rid of that drag and drop system and actually use the production language, the GameMaker language. So we swapped over to that straight away. Learned how to program through that. And the whole game's been made through, we started on the old GameMaker. We've now converted it over to GameMaker 2. There were challenges from just all over the place in terms of what to do, and there was the technical side of it, there was the kind of the management of the whole thing, there was everything to do with publicity and putting the game on Steam and managing, setting up a company for us and doing all the stuff associated with that. So there's a hell of a lot for an indie dev to do. You have to be a jack of all trades, and like I say, when you're starting out, there's just huge amounts to learn. Initially, the biggest challenge was technical, because we started off from nothing, and so everything had to be learned through, everything was learned through YouTube and forums and things like that. So it's slow going to start off with. I'd say the biggest challenge now is getting the design right, because it's not a slavish copy of another game. There's no blueprint that we can just use for it. It takes in elements of lots of different games, and it's a pretty unique concept and executed in a unique way. And so what is a big challenge for us is tying all the different features that we want together into a design that is fun, has a lot of depth, allows it to be played in slightly different ways, and it's balanced and stuff like that. So that's something that is really challenging. Quite early on, we released some expected release dates. To be honest, I don't know why we did that, because having not done any of it before, it was a complete guess. And I remember going to our first expo where we told people that we were going to be releasing it, in 6 months, and the smirks on their faces when we said that. They obviously knew a lot more than we did. But yeah, it's been really difficult to try and guess how long everything is going to take, because there's been unforeseen technical things that have come up which has entailed us completely redoing stuff which we would have ticked off as done. And yeah, it's very difficult. Our time scales and that have totally changed. So now we just don't want to tell anyone. We don't want to give a definite date for it until we're imminently about to release.